Yeah, no, it was a very serendipitous email. I had just actually read Shonda Rhimes' book, Year of Yes. I don't know if anybody's read that in the room. Raise your hand. It's amazing. And she basically just says, say yes, say yes. So when she asked me, I didn't even think about it. I said yes, and then I was totally screwed for a week. So, and then this is the result of what came out of it. So you can hit the slideshow. All right, there we go. Okay, so my name is Katharine Zaleski. You heard my bio. I'm the co-founder president of Power to Fly, and I'm a problem. I am a big, big problem. I bet you weren't expecting this as closing keynote material, but that's why they asked me to do keynotes. Natasha does. So the reason I'm a problem is I'm a problem for brands. They can't find enough of me to work for them because I'm a woman in the tech space. I'm a problem for company management because I want to have babies. I'm a problem from a PR perspective because I spend my days showing companies, major companies, that there are women in tech who they could hire tomorrow, but they won't do it yet because of the way that they're set up. So that's another problem. And I think we share a lot of the same problems in the room, but I think there's a lot of power in those problems, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So here's the personal problem that I turned into a business with my co-founder. I co-founded Power to Fly when the baby that you saw on the slide before was 6 weeks old. And I did it with this woman, Milena Berry, who has 3 children. She was the CTO for 7 years, and she had 3 children during that time. She was the CTO of Avaz.org, which is sort of like a global move on. They have over 40 million members. And during those 7 years, she was able to have 3 babies and remain in the workforce because she worked remotely. So she solved her problem that way. She was able to manage about 30 people remotely. And so she came to me when I had a 6-week-old, and she told me that she had this idea about matching more businesses with women who work remotely. And I said to her, well, this is perfect. This is exactly the problem I'm facing right now, which is, I've had all these career choices, and as soon as I have a child, my career choices are narrowed down to 2 choices. Go back to work all the time, or pull out of the workforce. And I'm seeing this happen over and over again with friends of mine that are infinitely more educated than the men they're having babies with, but that's a whole other story. And so we started to talk about Power to Fly, and we decided to start with tech. And then the idea is to build out into new verticals and really revolutionize work across the board, not just for women, but for businesses who can't find and retain enough women. So here we are, about 19 months in. We've raised $7.5 million. We were one of 15 companies in New York in 2015 that was able to raise Series A funding that was woman-led, which is crazy. 15 is just a pathetic number, frankly. But so we have a lot of work to do. But here's our growth trajectory to date. We have over 74,000 profiles on the site. We talked about that Fortune article. That was a big growth curve there. Seed was in August of 2014. And since then, we've matched women at major companies. The woman on the top left works for Hearst from her house in Bangladesh. She has a family. We have this woman at NBC is in New York. The woman in Washington Post works for the Washington Post from Ukraine. She was literally dealing with the war. She was able to stay in the workforce. So the idea is that women want to work. They're just not here in New York and San Francisco. And we have to get creative about solving this problem. So this is just to show you some of the brands that we're working with, and we're actually making tech executives happy. Now, when I talk about this problem of trying to find more women in tech, I have to sell it to men. And tell them it's not their, convince them that it's not just their problem. So here's the video that we use to convince these men that it's not just their problem. And I gotta see how I can actually play this thing.
Meet Neil. He's a CTO who can't find qualified women in tech to join his team. And Neil knows it's not just his problem. Most tech teams have very few women on them. In fact, less than 20% is the industry standard. But Neil, like any CTO, is too busy with deadlines to meet, code to push, and executives to make happy to figure out how to diversify his team. Meet Power to Fly, the hiring marketplace where Neil can find the top women in tech. Companies like BuzzFeed, Hearst, and funded startups are already hiring women to work from anywhere in the world through Power to Fly. Top women in tech move fast, so Neil acts fast. Within 15 working days, he's brought on Tatiana in Russia, Jamie in Texas, and Sarah in San Francisco. He's taking advantage of a global talent pool that keeps his team running around the clock. And he's building products with input from half his customer base. With help from Power to Fly, Neil surpasses his company's diversity goals with an engineering team of 30% women and is on track to grow to 50% in the next year. Now, sign up for Power to Fly to hire the best women in tech.
So the reason I'm showing
Meet
that...
Neil. He's a CTO who can't find qualified women in tech to join.
I can't deal. Malfunction. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
Did you close your browser? Was it in the browser?
I don't know where you put it, and I don't know how to help. We are women in tech.
We are real life women in tech. See, now I'm opening your entire system.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. I tried to help you.
All right. That was like a dystopian nightmare, like from hell, where this speech can only get better from now on. But one of the funny things is, like, whenever we go into meetings, they always think we're the IT people as well. So they're like, "Oh, you're women in tech. You know how to set up this AV system." I'm like, "Well, that's from 1992, so no." All right. So where am I? Shit, this thing is still playing. How do I get back to my slideshow? What do I do? Comment tab? Command tab. Now I'm advertising for LinkedIn. There we go. Okay. So I'm not going to play this video. It's an amazing video because I love this man. But what? Okay, no, the point I was going to make is, like, even so I spend my days getting a lot of so I spend my days obviously pitching to men with this video, telling them it's not just their problem. And the funny thing is, like a lot of guys get super excited. They're like, "Oh, wow, you can make me a hero. I can hire more women in tech using your platform." And then they always like to say, I get it. I get why we need more women in tech." And you say, "Why?" And they say, "I have daughters. I have a wife." And you're like, "Okay, well, men have been having daughters and wives for centuries, or millennia, actually, and it really hasn't helped us out very much." And they say this, when you're walking down a hall, and there are like no woman around. And the word "I get it" is basically the modern day equivalent of like just shut up. So that's always a phrase that I hate to hear. But the other question I get, and I usually get this from younger guys in tech, is why do we need more women in tech? And those guys ask that question because they haven't been told to shut up yet by HR. But it's a very, very healthy question because it actually allows us to sort of open up. So today I'm going to arm you with some of my talking points and some of my answers on that. So, oh, I do? Okay. But I can't hear it. Oh, well, it's okay. I'm not going to play this next video. I'm just not going to go there.
I needed that.
I'm just really nervous what else is going to show up on here, considering my YouTube habits. So, I'm a little obsessed with the show Outlander. Has anybody watched that? Yeah, that might be a problem.
These are all set to autoplay, by the way.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I don't know why.
It's okay.
Okay, whatever. I'm not gonna. I want to show one last video, but maybe I can give you like a signal that says video time. It'll be like video time. Okay, so back to the answer I always. So the reason why we need women in tech. So this video, I'll just narrate this video very quickly, is Justin Trudeau explaining why his cabinet needs to be diverse, and he gives the best answer ever, which is it's 2015. So I'm just going to say it's 2016. That's why we need more women in tech. But one of the first talking points that I always like to pull out is that gender diversity and overall ethnic diversity leads to better results in companies. Like McKinsey after McKinsey study shows that if you have more gender diversity, your teams actually perform better. A Harvard study showed that a team's collective intelligence rises with more women. So we know all this stuff. As I'm preaching to the choir, you can just like raise your hands up and say hallelujah. The second talking point, and this is especially significant in tech, is that building products with your user base, with half your user base or a lot of your user base, is incredibly important. And these points, they seem to resonate more and more with men. Good Housekeeping TV is a product that was built by a lot of Power to Fly tech talent through Hearst. Same with Cosmo Body App. It's amazing to me that Hearst was building things like Cosmo Body without women before. Okay, so that's a problem. I just, cultural diversity is huge. We actually, one example is at Power to Fly. Our team, we have 15 countries represented just out of the 56 people that work with us. And the other day I was saying that we should be doing some more advertising for Russian talent on Facebook. And a Russian talent manager said to me, well, but we don't use Facebook in Russia. We use vk.com. It's just something that clearly you use vk.com. So yeah, this is something I totally didn't know or figure out before someone from a different country actually said that to me. And then the third talking point is that, if we're not there, then there's no way we can influence anything. So this is just the overall corporate pipeline. As a McKinsey study, 118 corporations. And the sad thing is you see that 45% in the starting class, entry-level positions, is 45% women. And then as the lifetime of a woman's career, it goes down to 17%. And so that's a huge, huge problem because nobody has any role models, and every women start to think, and I was in this position too, that at one point something's gonna have to give. So seeing it to be it is huge. I mean, tech, the numbers are far worse, obviously, because we have a pipeline problem to begin with. In the corporate world, it's more of a leaky pipeline problem, but they definitely coincide. So, big believer, and you have to see it to believe it, to be it. It's one thing we really espouse at Power to Fly. My mother always took me to women doctors. I don't think she actually had like a feminist agenda there. There goes my slide. But I don't think she had, that wasn't her intention so much, but are we gonna get back up? But the idea is that, I never grew up thinking I couldn't be a doctor because I always saw women doctors around me. So that was incredibly important. So yes, this is a real problem because the percentage of women in the workforce overall has actually been declining since I graduated from high school. And I grew up actually thinking that I could be anything and have any career I want, and no, it's been trending down since then. And this is happening while more women are graduating than men. Okay, and it's especially bad in tech. These numbers are actually ridiculously generous. It's more like 11.25%, and so we all know this. We all know this so much that when you get asked questions like this, you have that face. Okay, that's my resting bitch face. I've been working on it for a long time. The woman on the left is actually a friend of mine. We're gonna hang out in San Francisco next week. But the point is, it was just a really annoying question. So the reason I'm giving that look is because it's our problem that there aren't enough women in tech. Somehow it's not the way that companies have been set up for generation upon generation to be built for men, and the fact that we haven't been able to integrate into those made for men boxes for the last 40 years. it's our problem that there aren't enough women in tech. And it's broken down into these 3 sub-problems. And the reason I'm going to break them down into 3 sub-problems is I actually have some interesting ideas and solutions for the sub-problems that I want to leave you with today. So there are uplifting parts here. So number 1 is that we're not prepared to lower our standards. This is like my favorite quote ever because this guy just like totally revealed. By the way, like these are people I have to go raise money to, so you can see that it's always an interesting walk. But he's the head of Sequoia, and he said that they don't have enough female partners because they don't have. Maybe don't tweet that one. He's taking a photo. We don't have enough female partners because we're prepared to lower our standards. But what the hell are the standards? Are they like guys that look like that? Is it the same damn T-shirt that I've been seeing now for 8 years? I've seen him in the flesh, by the way. He wears that T-shirt. And he clearly works out too, but that's another story. But it's the standard of basically looking like a white guy. And unfortunately, to extrapolate to larger studies, the standard is being male. That's the problem. Like there was a study done at Yale a couple years ago where both male and female professors got the same resume. So it wasn't just men. Okay, so that's just very important to point out. It wasn't just men. But male and female professors got the same resume, and the resume had a man's name on it and a woman's name on it. And the man's resume was overwhelmingly picked, and he was offered $4,000 more on average. Okay? So we have to start understanding what the standards are, because that's the standard, and that's the problem. The next reason why it's our problem is because we have a pipeline problem. And this is always a really tricky one for me because, yes, we need to educate more girls in STEM in STEM. But the problem is that it's shifting the blame from the companies actually changing their hiring practices to we need to educate younger girls. And it's shifting the blame and saying to young girls, the reason there aren't enough women in tech is because you didn't choose to go into a STEM program. And trust me, I talk to a lot of major companies who say, oh, well, we're not ready to start hiring remotely, or we're not ready to open up these positions, but we will give you a couple $100,000 to do a media campaign where, we can talk about how good we are at women's education, or, how great we are as a place to work. Like, this is a problem. Like, it's a major whitewashing problem. Where they don't actually want to put the money into hiring the women and giving them women jobs now. By focusing on the pipeline too much, we forget that there are so many women that want to work today, okay? But they can't move to San Francisco. They can't move to New York. It's prohibitively expensive. They don't even live in this country, but they're women in tech. Or they live in, other parts of the country. And part of the problem is that there is a pipeline of people who get a job at a place in Silicon Valley. They invite their friends from college. They're usually men. So that's the pipeline. And we have to break the pipeline and actually invest in the women that want to work today. So, and then the third one is that we're told that we're not leaning in enough. So, and this is a huge problem because, 81% of women are moms by the age of 44 in this country. So whether they adopt or give birth. And we're the ones who are told that because we're not changing to adapt to workplaces that were never made for us in the first place, we're therefore a problem. Okay, so that's really annoying. It's especially annoying when all I read about now is take your dog to work policies, okay, versus childcare options. All right, we had to take the dog to work policy when I was in college. It was like frat boys just absolutely loved it. Frat boys absolutely loved it. And then I actually married one of those frat boys, and that's him with our dog. But I love dogs. Actually, my husband wasn't really a frat boy. I shouldn't say that. But we love dogs. I just want to put that in the speech. We love dogs. We also love babies. It's our daughter. So how can we own these problems that we're saddled, that we're told are really our problem? How can we benefit from these problems? There's huge opportunity to benefit from these problems. That virtual reality photo that we took is like from 1985. I think someone like strapped a Game Boy to her face or something. There's like a dial. Unfortunately, Kathy and I didn't actually realize that until like 3 minutes before the speech. But I promise we have a couple more modern virtual reality headsets because that's like really trendy these days. So sorry. One of my problems is I laugh at my own speeches. So how can we own these own problems that we're saddled with? So we can build products to fix them. We chose a lot of sort of like women-friendly products here just because they were sort of some nice Googleable images. But the point being that like I took an everyday problem in my life and turned it into a business. The problems that we're facing around us are they're wonderful opportunities. Another problem that's not so female focused was, does anybody know who actually invented the life raft in 1882? A woman. A woman who saved generation upon generation of men from drowning themselves in wooden boats that were just a really bad idea as life rafts. So she and women who were also shipwrecked. But the point is that, you know, I'm not just focusing on the fact that women create products for women. I'm focusing on the fact that women are like, we're huge problem solvers, and there's huge problems out there that we can fix and take advantage of. So let's fix problem number one, the quality problem, okay? When people talk to you about quality problems, let's actually take those virtual reality headsets that they all love to like live life in right now. And the future looks pretty damn grim because it's like a bunch of guys like groping at the air all the time. And here's a woman groping at the air. So the way I think virtual reality can actually fix the standards problem, and I've written a piece about this, is, and nobody's built a program about this, so hint, hint, here's an idea. It may be a terrible idea once you actually start building it. But the point is that I think that you could actually really focus interviews on skill-based interviews. So if you're at a big company, you can ask your HR manager, show me the resumes, but take all the names off of it. You'll know the names, I won't. I'll pick people based on the resumes, and then once you set up an interview with me, set up a virtual reality interview with me, and have the woman, the man, the whatever, like be the avatar that they want to be. So I won't know if it's a man or a woman. I won't know what they look like. I don't know where they're from, what their race is. We'll have a conversation. You can even mask the voice, and I will actually be able to test them on skills and talk to them during that conversation in virtual reality. Now, and then, you know, as HR, you can go and do the background check, but I won't know if I've chosen a man or a woman till after the hire is made, right? And you can make sure they're not crazy because you'll do the background check. Now, the person that's really perfected this is Christina Aguilera. And let me explain. Do you all watch The Voice? I don't, but maybe someone, okay. So the idea of The Voice is actually based on a very well-practiced screening method that orchestras use, where in the 70s, orchestras were saying, like, we can't find any women. Why can't we find any women? It's the same question. You know, if they had live television like that, you'd get like a female cellist being asked, where are the women in orchestras? Well, what they did is they put up screens and they started actually screening musicians so that they couldn't hear them, and the rate of women went up exponentially, and so that's why we have more women in our orchestras today. So, I mean, these are sort of more extreme measures, but if we still, the problem is that there's bias across the board, and so if we don't do something to actually level set, we'll never be able to like test whether or not we can truly hire based on skills. So that's idea number one. Take it or leave it. I'm just throwing some stuff out here. Opportunity number two is fix the pipeline problem. So I do have a video here, but I'm not going to play it. But the video shows that you can actually find women in tech faster than you can pop popcorn if you actually do the right searches. And so this is just how we use Power to Fly. But we show this to guys sometimes and also female hiring managers, and they're like, whoa, I can actually search for a front-end developer, and these are all the names that come up. So in this search, like 200 women come up in a very specific skill set. And I want to do this with like popping a bag of popcorn, peeling an orange, I don't know, like anything else, just to show that you can literally find women in tech faster than it takes to do these mundane things. Now, the reason we can do it again is because we're really thinking about the future of work here. So this is our team at Power to Fly. By not saying that everybody had to come in and report to an office every day, we were able to build a team of 95% women across 15 countries. We just hired a front-end developer in Saudi Arabia, a woman, okay? Like these are, and she's really, really strong. The idea is that we have to stop thinking about work the way it was set up in the 18th century, where work was set up for men to leave women every day, okay, to get out of the house. And no wonder women have been dropping out of the workforce. It was never set up for them in the first place. So it doesn't work. It's also like a huge drain on our environment. It's very costly, and it cuts out huge amount of half the population. And this is the same when we talk about education in the pipeline. Like obviously we're talking about more and more remote education, but we have to start looking at, there's all sorts of different like problems that can be solved along with like accreditation. I've gone to panels on making sure, on actually sort of valuing different online degrees, which is a whole other issue. And obviously this is for millennial women as well, not just for women who are having children. Because as employers, the second thing that people are asking for when they look for employers is essentially flexibility on where they work. So that's huge, and it's also why we're starting to see more and more offices like empty out, and why an Intuit study just showed that by 2020, 40% of America's workforce will actually be doing more like freelance projects, which is a whole other problem that we can solve as a whole, which is the fact that benefits right now are totally tied to full-time careers. And Power to Fly actually pays benefits on behalf of companies, which is a whole issue. But we need to start thinking about a system that isn't attached to a 1930s way of working, which is that you're attached to your employer essentially. You should be able to carry the same benefits from employer to employer, because that's what society is going to start demanding. So try to solve that. The other reason why there's so many problems to be solved in reimagining the workforce is, first of all, you can scale a startup faster, so there's a huge business case there. This is just part of our team. As you can see in the top right-hand corner, we had a baby born in January to our head of sales. We've actually had 8 babies born in 19 months. That's what happens when you have 53 women on the team in their 30s. But it's great, and we're all still here. But the idea is that we're able to work across these remote tools, which can be infinitely better. There's a lot of product opportunity in there, and trust me, there's a huge market for it. Let's change how we lean in. That's huge. I mean, this thing. Does everybody know what this thing is? It's a freaking torture contraption. That's what it is. It was like. And that's like the hospital grade one that I had to rent for $2 a day. I remember like taking it back to NYU, like in the dark of the night, being like, oh. It was like I had to be hooked up to like a generator in like the kitchen. It's like torture. But these ridiculous things are incredibly liberating. I bet the woman who invented the dishwasher in 1872 didn't think she was going to be liberating like an entire population, and she liberated a huge amount of men too. So these are not just products for women; they are products for everybody. So, as I said, we share a huge set of problems with billions of people, and the key here is really is recognizing these problems. So this is me, mid 2000s, before I invested in certain hair care products and also a proper bra, but that's another story. And you can tell there's like Ariana Huffington behind me. And then the creepy guy in the top left hand corner with the phone. Does anybody know who that is? The CEO of BuzzFeed, Jonah Peretti, who's a wonderful, wonderful guy, actually. This isn't being recorded, is it? He's actually one of our angel investors. He's wonderful. But he used to always say, he said the best companies are a reflection of their founders. So I thought about that a lot when we were building up Power to Fly. And I thought about how, as a working woman for 10 years before I had a baby, how I had actually been at the workplace. And this started to come out more and more as I was getting, really frustrated with other women that I was talking to. I'd be doing sales pitches to women at, really hot startups, and they'd say, oh, my God, we need more women. But the women have to come and sit in the office. Or we have a great environment here. And so I'd go look at their environment. There'd be 8 ping pong tables and no breastfeeding room. I'm like, okay. Or they talk about Thursday night free dinner. And Kathy has this great line where she's like, well, what good is free dinner on Thursday night if your kids are home alone eating mac and cheese? Like, there's a reason that there aren't women there. So that started to get to me more and more. So I basically wrote this piece, which was, about my own experiences, but also about like the fact that, we need to do a much better job recognizing, how other people's problems when we're in different stages of our lives. So it went like crazy viral. I was literally like choosing between the two Australian Good Morning shows, Good Day Australia, and Good Day Sunshine Australia, I believe. So it just was crazy, but so anyway, that's sort of my missive to really pay attention to things. So I'm going to leave you with a couple parting thoughts, and as we wrap up here. So my parting tip number one is don't start a speech at bedtime. This is me while trying to sing a lullaby while writing this speech. Total disaster. And you can't see the child's face, but it wasn't great. Anita Borg actually retweeted it, which really like emboldened me. The next one's kind of cheesy, but this is because I promised my co-founder that I'll always talk about this. She's a total health nut, which is to take care of yourself. Don't become your own problem. Like we schedule exercise into our days at Power to Fly, and I really actually I put it in my schedule so that everybody can see that I'm at the gym at a certain time. Because for me, like going to the gym isn't about losing weight; it's about like actually getting some headspace. So the next thing is to like replace the damn ping pong tables at your office, okay? Now, my sister is like an amateur like champion ping pong player, and like actually like works on. There's these like ping pong clubs downtown that she's sort of been investing in. So anyway, it's a big thing in my family. But I do think that we need to like supplement some other stuff besides the ping pong tables in offices. And it's also like this is a lot about being hyper aware of your work colleagues. Like what I wrote about in my Fortune piece was, asking a mother to go to last minute drinks and then getting kind of frustrated when she can't go is really, really not fair. Invite her to lunch, okay? Don't get annoyed when someone's leaving at 5 o'clock when they might have been there, hours before everybody else because they have to go pick up a kid. Don't schedule meetings at 4 p.m. That's usually when you have to start leaving to pick up a kid. If someone needs to be on the phone during that meeting to get to daycare, then that's important to be supportive of. Find a work wife. So I don't know why I chose this photo, but this is my Huffington Post work wife. This photo wasn't taken during Huffington Post days. This is taken in the early 90s when I'm helping her with her life preserver. She's now the deputy managing editor of the New York Times. But we were able to survive the early years of Huffington Post together. We were co-news editors for 1 year because we totally supported each other. We would have both been fired if we hadn't have supported each other. Like we had to take a workload of posting news stories around the clock. We had this crazy schedule where it was part of the problem too is like we were, just out of college and we were like dating people at the time. So it was like we were trying to really accommodate this schedule too. But but we had this schedule where, we would work, like I would work the morning shift from 7 to 12:30, then I would take a break, and then I would work till like 10:30 that night. She would get the night off, and then we would switch off. It was crazy. But, and I've had a couple work wives throughout my career, and it's been incredibly important to me. Build towards a support system. Like I have an incredible support system at home. Part of the reason I do is, this is one of my next pieces that I'm working on, but because I've been able to sort of save up funding for it. But I always say to young women who ask me for their career advice now, I used to say, oh, stay late and never leave early or whatever. No, stay late. No, get there early and stay late. But now I say like start saving for childcare. Like that is like if you want to work and be able to compete in the workplace, you need really, really strong support at home. So that's just incredibly important. So on that, like I'll just leave you with embracing your problems, and I guess that's sort of in line with the goal of the Anita Borg Institute. That we're trying to mirror the people we're trying to. I can't read, but you can all read. So the point being that like our problems have a lot of power and we need to embrace it, and there's huge opportunity in them. So thank you. So I think we have a little time for questions, but if anybody has them. Yes, woman in the red, and then I'll take the... Yes, or I don't know. I mean, I actually am blind as a bat up here, but...
So hi, I'm Holly. If you've been in any sessions with me, I've probably spoken up. I always do. So I have to admit that I think Power to Fly is a great thing, and I think that there are lots of different reasons why it could be powerful. I personally went through a bout of having chronic migraines, and so the ability to work from home was essential to my ability to continue to work. But I can't help but have my blood boil a little bit towards the end when you're talking about childcare. I still believe that women won't be equal in the workforce until men have to balance their career and childcare.
Right.
You know, you talked about your support system. Your husband wasn't there.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that a problem? That's a problem.
It's just
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's infuriating, but the thing is, he wants to have a full-time career too. So, like, something has to. It wasn't going to be me. It wasn't going to be him. So it's not like, you know, I'm not. We're both, you know, they're there to support us both. But I think the problem that I see a lot is like there's just so much expected work. And by the way, I just want to say about Power to Fly, it's not all about remote work. We match a lot of women. There are women at different stages in their life that want to go into the office, especially younger women, and we do that as well. But we're trying to say to companies, if you want, one of the ways to get more gender diversity is to allow women to work remotely. But we also have a huge amount of women that do want to go into the office as well. But I think the thing to really to think about when it comes to like work at home is that traditionally women have been like given huge amounts of unpaid work at home, and it's expected of them to organize this and that. I didn't get into it, but actually my husband and I do have like a very good like system now on like who takes on what, but that wasn't in the beginning. He actually read a book called All Joy and No Fun, which was about this, so he was way more up to date on it than I was. About how like most marriages fall apart in the first year because of this problem where the work is just totally misaligned and it's all basically on the woman, and people are like, why is this so difficult? And this is really when the fighting starts. So it's a huge issue. But it's like my next speech.
Even if the husband is wonderful, and my brother happens to take more of the caregiving than his wife does, but it seems that the woman always feels more responsible.
Yeah. I think so, but I think you have to. I mean, I literally went out and hired a wife, so that's like pretty much, you know, kind of what you have to do. Like, it's how you deal with it. But yeah, I know. Well, you're trying to bend back like so much of what's considered the norm. So, yeah.
I was fascinated by what you were saying, that Power to Fly pays benefits towards people. Like, so how does that work? Why does it work out that way? Is it contracted?
Well, okay, so it's interesting. So a lot of companies, in order to get them to hire more women in tech, we actually tell them that we do a deal with them where they pay us a monthly rate to bring the woman on, and then they can process her through our payroll system. So it actually allows them to raise their head count and hire more, but do it on a contracting budget, while we still put the woman on W-2 and can offer her healthcare packages through a third-party provider, which we have. Because what we're really trying to do is eliminate every excuse out there to hire more women. So you get things like people say, well, I don't have enough head count, because head count's hard. So we say, well, okay, fine. What's your contractor opening? So we don't punish the woman, and we can still work with the company. Do we do what? Yeah. They hire women. They can hire women directly as well, or if it's international, then it's more of a contracting situation. Because
Yeah, I was going to ask how you bypass visa requirements.
well, we do. I mean, if they're working remotely, yeah. So what we do want to do is, if you have someone on your as a contractor for over a year, we're trying to get into the H-1B situation, but it's like so overrun by big companies. So we've tried it a couple times and failed. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna.
How do you guarantee any kind of stability? So I think a concern for some women in a contracting position is sort of lack of stability versus being hired directly for a full-time
Yeah. I mean, she can get hired directly for a full-time job if they want to hire her directly for a full-time job. It's like any other situation. I mean, we try to create a lot of stability in our contracts where we try to push companies to offer leave and other benefits, but it's very hard. I mean, we're going up against the U.S. government here that it's very, very strict about what a contractor is and what a contractor isn't. Like, the way that I would want women to work is very different than the way we've set it up like 80 years ago. That's the problem. Like, we're totally going up against this system that's very draconian that way. So, yes, over there.
Hi. So you're in a role pursuing a mission that you get a lot of I get it moments.
Yeah.
And then that result in what I like to call resting skull faces. How do you make sure, I don't want to use the B word, how do you make sure you have a calm and productive conversation and not get written off as an angry woman?
Do a lot of Soul Cycle. There's ways. Okay, so one of my tactics is to say, that's a great question. I usually try to give yourself a couple of breaths beforehand. Or you say, you're like, oh, interesting. That's another one. Interesting. Well, yeah. I mean, I sort of try to breathe a lot at the door. I don't know. You have to just laugh it off too. You have to like think it's funny. It can get pretty bad. We had a situation the other day where we had this guy at like his jogging desk. It's like hell, and I just wanted to like murder him. And we just sort of walked out of his office, but there's a lot of that, like the walking desk is my favorite. Because yeah, try doing a walking desk like right after having a baby, and then asking why there aren't more women in your office. So, yeah. Any more questions? Yes, way in the back.
Question. You mentioned support, and the support system you need to have as a mom is very important, especially if you're a single mother.
Yeah.
So, if you have any, you offer any resources or guidance to, even if you work remote and you have a small baby, working from home, you still need some sort of support.
Oh, definitely. Like, and we tell women that they have to have childcare. Like, it's not about staying home and watching a baby and doing work. It's not about that at all. It's about being actually able to get to daycare instead of having to do an hour commute, or being able to be there if there's a doctor's appointment, or between feedings, during feedings. No, I mean I think this is another huge problem, and I think there's a couple ways that we need to start looking at it. The truth is that childcare is really a privilege of people that can afford it, and so it's like some women can afford to have the careers they want because they can stay at the office till 8 o'clock with the childcare, or maybe they have a great husband who wants to stay at home, but that's the rare thing, or can switch off and on. But I mean, I see a lot of people doing nanny shares. That's one thing that is on cost savings. The other thing is, like, I think that companies, like this whole take your dog to work thing, like I have an example there of like a huge company in San Francisco, actually the biggest employer in San Francisco. They're obsessed. It's called Salesforce, and they have something called Puppy Force, and they offer this benefit where you can take your puppy into work and like rent a room with your 3 other puppy friends, and you get vet benefits. And then I did my research to see if they have childcare benefits. They offer 4 weeks of maternity leave. Okay, and I'm hoping I'm wrong about this, but that's on the internet. And I downloaded their whole thing when I was doing this yesterday. And then the other thing is, oh my God, I actually have it right here. Wait. Puppy Force. lets up to 6 employees book a special room outfitted with everything dogs and their owners could want for a comfortable day at the office, including soundproof water bowls, and padded cages. Well, where's the damn child care force? Like, you know, they do have one center in San Francisco, but it's one center, and the rules on it, it's like buried in some PDF that I found, that you have to be like California kinder care, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, your waiting time will be determined by the age of your child in the center. What about the waiting time of your puppy? So these are the things that are like, you know, just, you know, obviously we're talking about costs here, but like if you actually like assess the cost of setting up daycare centers, you could make a big difference. And then there's all sorts of other tax things, but I don't want to bore you guys with that one. So I think about this a lot. Because as a founder of a company, like 2 years ago, I was paying my nanny more than I was paying myself. Okay, and it was 1,000% worth it to me because every dollar I was paying her, I knew that that was going to be $2 down the line. And she's going to the Philippines on Wednesday, and I think I might jump off the Brooklyn Bridge. She's going for a month. But yeah. Yes, sorry.
So, you know, your whole video is talking about how important it is not just to have women, but to have women because we need diversity.
Yeah.
But it looked like you only have one male who's in your company.
Yeah, that's a problem. We need more men. We actually have more. We have 3 men. We have 3 men, 4 men. But this is like the mirror of the issue. So.
Yeah, because I feel like it's a complementary problem.
The problem is if you hire women, if you hire men, they bring in more men. If you hire women, they refer more women. I mean, part of the reason we did that is in the beginning was like we were very mission based and it just grew and we were just like totally. We were out. I mean, it's the exact same issue. Like I totally live the like a founder will say, well, I didn't have time to hire women. So and you get that a lot. And then they're like, but I can't find any women now. So we actually have a lot of men applying now. So which is great. And so we're definitely looking for some men. I'm looking for a product marketing manager. Men may apply. And I'm looking for yeah. So that's one. Yes.
Generally, when you're kind of going against the grain for anything and you start to address problems, people want to label you as emotional, dramatic. How do you, in your own life and in things that you've called out to be problems, how do you face that?
Well, I actually don't get called emotional or dramatic. I think partially, I think like men are too scared to say those things to me. I feel like this would be a really stupid thing to say to me at this stage. And we also, we work with such big, but I don't get, I've worked with men, like, men have helped me build this, so much of my career. Like, they're big, huge supporters of me. I love men, don't get me wrong. They've been great. But, and men gave us, the early seed funding for Power to Fly and also the current funding. So I think, the issue is sort of, just how you address these situations and make them very fact-based and very problem-based. And we always set out, the way we went around Silicon Valley to all the places that everybody has a story about, and we said, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's the product. And it was very unemotional, and we showed them like what the market opportunity was, and and they really, really got into it. So it was like all about speaking in those terms and trying to appeal to them and their desire to want to fix things. Like, I don't think, it's back to that mirroring problem. It's like people don't necessarily, they don't want things to be a certain way. They do it because they're busy and they have their head down and they're, so. Yes?
I wonder if you have any tips on negotiating salary. You brought up briefly the issue of income inequality, and so even if some of these companies are hiring women, it's likely they're making less. And what I've learned from joining a kind of transparent startup is that men are just bolder. A lot of times we just had someone interview that asked for a salary that was 50% higher than what we're willing to offer, and we gave it to him, and I was like, wow, I felt like I was so enlightened, like this is what dudes are doing, this is why we're only making 79 cents per every dollar they're making.
Yeah.
we're just not asking, or if we do, and I did, you get a little bit of pushback, like, well, let's see how it goes, and like, and of course, a lot of it will come down to personality and getting, you know, to that level of boldness and security to ask for it, but I'm wondering if in your experience you've learned any sort of tactics.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly made sure at my previous company that I was making more than the men, because I was the managing editor. There was 2 men that were making more than me, but they were ranked higher. But I was looking at the budget all day too. So, but the way that I did that, and I never see women do that. We coach a lot of women on this. Is I was at the Washington Post, and I had a salary, and I had an options package, and I knew that if I were going to leave, this was the amount of money I was going to lose. So this was how much they had to match, and they had to match it even higher in order to get me to leave. So I basically I gave them a math problem. I said, this is where I'm at right now. If I leave at this time, this is how much money I have to make up. Like, these are the differences that we need to get to. Now, obviously, at startups, they can't afford to necessarily match, but they have to find some way to essentially make you whole. And a lot of times it's with the equity, because the startup equity is much more valuable than like a publicly traded company equity, which was in my situation. So and that's what I see a lot with men, is they're very, very clear about how, you know, these are basically, they use words like, these are the on-target earnings that I need in order to feed my family. These are the on-target earnings I need in order to make my rent whole. Like, it's very unemotional. And when we see women, they usually say, well, you know, I could make 80, but I'd be okay with 60. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, why would you say that? Like, it's like immediately you just knocked yourself way down. And you get that a lot. It's like, for the right opportunity. You know, for the guys, it's like the right opportunity allows me to be able to feed, you know, to either buy my amazing, like, condo in Miami or feed my family. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they break it down into, like, this is what I need. These are the facts of my life, and they're facts. They're again based on facts. So, and we actually we help women negotiate. A lot of times, like, we look at the overall salary that's being made, and I'll just say like, well,
very a lot of things for cultural access to movements